Good day. We have finished 4 units of the 5 units in Chemistry 12. And you might think we're 80% of the way through the course, but we're actually 60%. Because acid, bases, and salts accounts for 40% of the course. This sheet may have some stuff you understand, it may have stuff that confuses you, but it's to give you a sense of what we're going to do, and when we finish the unit, this stuff should all make sense to you. So here are specific outcomes. You should be able to identify an acids and bases through experimentation. You did an acid and bases lab in grade 10, and that's really what this is about. You can use different types of indicators to figure out if you have an acid or base. Same thing in grade 10, you were given the properties of them. And you should be able to write out neutralization reactions and Arrhenius definitions of acids and bases. All of that is Science 10. Naming acids, we talked about. Bases are easy, because we're just talking generally about hydroxide. Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases, that's going to be new stuff. So we're going to learn about proton donors and acceptors, and being able to look at an equation and figure out what the Bronsted-Lowry acid is and what the base is. So conjugate acid-base pairs, again, this ties into the Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases. And I think overall you're going to find this first section very straightforward. Now, in terms of definitions, strong acid, strong base, weak acid, weak base, we're going to get into that when we look at the chart that gives Ka values. And that means we're going to look at strong acids and weak acids based on whether they go to completion, the reactions do, or whether we have an equilibrium set up. Again, that stuff won't be too difficult to handle when we get there. And comparing concentrations of these things, the H3O plus, OH minus, this will be new to you, but it won't be difficult. And for products, a new term, you will get to know that well as we proceed. You have to be able to write equations. You'll have to be able to predict the effect of adding acid or base to an equilibrium, so that goes back to Le Chatelier. Then we'll get into the pH scale. We have to define things called pH, pOH, pKW. That's going to be all mumbo jumbo. But when we get to it again, it's just using your calculator as a tool. It's going to be very painless. Writing out Ka and Kb equilibrium expressions, that won't be difficult. And doing these kind of calculations, they will become second nature quite quickly, I hope. So we're going to give you chemicals, and we'll say, hey, are they acidic, basic, or neutral? And that'll be using the Ka chart. We'll be talking about indicators and how they behave. And when do we use them? Well, it turns out we use them in things called titrations. You did redox titrations, and this section you will do acid-base titrations. We'll talk about standardization when we do titration. We'll talk about different types of titration. We'll get into pH curves for that. Then we're going to talk about buffers. We're going to talk about oxides. And so you can see there's a lot to deal with, but we're going to take it in small chunks, and I think you'll be fine.